Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'm going to be playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going to be facing off against the Dwarves. So definitely a grudging about to take place. Hopefully you guys don't mind, but I did hear your input, guys, in the past few days. I know you were getting a little bit bored of my relatively similar builds that I had been posting for Chaos, so I decided to mix it up quite a bit. I got a front line of Chaos Marauders with great weapons. Obviously, a pretty good, relatively cheap choice against the Dwarves, and more importantly, getting these cheap low-tier infantry across the board really allows you to get a lot of funky stuff. So as you can see, I actually have two Chaos Giants. These guys are absolute monsters, and if you can saturate them within, Chaos Marauders and troops like that, they're just going to absolutely destroy armored infantry with 530 weapon strength. They do cause terror, so against Dwarf Warriors and low-tier troops like Miners, they will definitely rout them quite quickly. Something that's also very nice is one of the kind of intuitive counters to Giants for the Dwarves. Obviously, missile troops are very, very good, but on that same note, Slayers. Slayers can do pretty well against Giants, but if you keep your Giants saturated in your front line among the Chaos Marauders, the Slayers are going to be really, really ineffective at getting to them, and we'll have to deal with these Marauders, which is a very, very bad trading situation for them. So front line of Chaos Marauders with great weapons, two Chaos Giants. I got Kolek Sun Eater here, who's just an absolute gangster. He can run around the Dwarven ranks. Lord of the Storm hits like a truck. And even though it is magic, you'll see it actually, can chunk for about 20 to 30% of HP on really high value targets. Obviously, in a Chaos Marauder build, I don't like Aspiring Champions against the Dwarves per se, as they do magic damage, but still, they're pretty good in terms of combat effectiveness, but still, they're just mainly there to encourage the Chaos Marauders. So if you zoom in on this group here, we go ahead and look. They do have the encouragement, which is really nice, because Kolek's always on the move. He's not always going to be in the center near the troops, so having that perpetual encouragement on your front line is quite nice. Then lastly, I decided to bring a Dragon Org Shaggoth, or Ogre, I always get that wrong. But he's quite a beast. He's like a mini Kolek, essentially. 6,300 HP, so let's go ahead and see. So 6,300 compared to Kolek's. He actually has more HP than Kolek. That seems a little strange, doesn't it? But he has 50 armor, really high leadership at 98 right now, 56 melee attack, really good melee defense, and he also has 420 weapon strength with an is that an anti-large, or is that, what is that? No, that's Kolek, so sometimes it's hard to get the bonus versus large, which isn't pertinent against the Dwarves, but he does have really heavy hitting armor piercing. So with the Dragon Org here and Kolek, they can really chase down heroic units. They can crush a Runesmith, they can crush, enemy lords really aggressively. They're big, and if the Dwarf player doesn't decide to bring like a Rune Lord or someone on a, Thorgrim, they can knock them around really, really bad. So we'll see how this goes. As far as my opponent's army, he has a pretty cool army. It's definitely more suited against like a traditional Chaos army with more infantry and Warriors of Chaos. It's going to be pretty hard for him to deal with those Giants without missile troops. But in his front line, he has Dwarf Warriors, just relatively low tier. And if I did bring like Forsaken, which I suppose aren't good against Dwarves, or, these guys will hold up pretty well against Chaos Marauders. So front line of Dwarf Warriors. In the secondary line, he actually has Miners with blasting charges. So it's a pretty cool little position he has here. As I come up the hill here, I'm going to get a lot of blasting charges, which is going to be very cool. In the back line, he does have two groups of Slayers, so very, very good against my Giants and my Shaggoth and all that kind of fun stuff. He does have the Grumbling Guard and the Peak Gate Guard, so heavy-duty armor piercing back here. But unfortunately for him, I don't really have any armored troops. I think the only thing with, Kolek has 50 armor. The Aspiring Champs are pretty much my only armored troops. And then in the back, he has some Dwarf Warriors with great weapons and some Longbeards as well. So he's got a Runesmith, and he actually has a Ungrim Iron Fist, who I haven't seen in a while, but Ungrim is a force to be reckoned with. He hits really hard. More importantly, he's unbreakable and does have charge defense as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I might fast forward a little bit because this battle does take some time to get going, as my opponent did deploy pretty far back. If you look up here on the minimap, you can see he is indeed in the far corner of the map. So I was really grateful he didn't have cannons, because if he just had like one or two cannons postured up here and was just teeing off on these Giants or on Kolek, that would have been really, really bad for me with that anti-large bonus. But, a lot of people prefer to play like an infantry Death Star type build against Chaos, which I personally, really, really like doing, because, really like well-placed Manticores and things like that can really, really put a lot of pressure on cannons. So he decided to bring more of the Death Star style build, which I definitely approve of. So Ungrim's in here. It looks like he's posturing his Longbeards with great weapons and his Dwarf Warriors right here. So he has a nice little battle line here. It's going to be very dense and very hard to get through. But thankfully, I do have Giants who don't really care for formations, and also Kolek is quite a monster in that respect as well. Let's go ahead and fast forward here. So Kolek is about to use Lord of the Storm, or I think that's what it's called, and just look at the damage it does. So I target the Peak Gate Guard, obviously a very, very important target, and just look how much damage it does. It's incredible. It literally took them from like 75 models to 59, did huge HP damage, like 40%, and the amount of resources he just lost there is just absolutely devastating. So he does pull his Slayers. He might have thought I was going to try and run in and charge his front line and harass, but again, when I see the Slayer King and his buddies coming out, I definitely did not want any of that. So I'm going to fast forward here because this does take a little bit of time. I didn't want to run to him, so I actually did like a slow march until I got close because I didn't want my guys to get tired or winded before, you know, the battle even started. So sometimes you got to take your time, unfortunately. So my forces do approach here, and I actually do have another Lord of the Storm coming up. It's on a relatively short cooldown, which is quite nice. So I'm just posturing my troops. I have my 2 giants here, and you guys will see these guys are just so savage against the dwarves. And if they don't have like quarrelers or, you know, cannons or things like that, or even gyrocopters with brimstone guns would be pretty good against the giants. So here's another Lord of the Storm, guys. Go ahead and take a look. So 59 models right now. He tried to run at the last second, but takes him down to 48. So those gate guard, what do they cost him? 1,500. So he's essentially lost 750 gold before the battle even started. So very, very brutal there. So the Warriors of Chaos are going to charge up the hill. I'm not sure about the terrain kind of factors in regards to uphill and downhill charges in this game. It's something I need to look into, but to my knowledge, I don't think there is even really a penalty for, you know, being charged downhill like there was in previous Total War games, if I'm not mistaken. So I am taking the blasting charges here. You can see it does pretty minor damage actually against the Chaos Marauders. And they're able to get in here, and we're going to have a nice little collide in the front line. Very scenic, and you can see if some of the dwarves actually got hit with their own charges. That was pretty unfortunate. But the Marauders are in there. You can see the Dragon Lord is in here, and he's just stomping the yard. He hits like a truck. You can see he just crushes dwarves there. And Kolek is coming in here, and essentially I just wanted to target Ungrim Iron Fist. You can see the charges continuing to come in. They do pretty minimal damage against Kolek. It's just an absolute force to be reckoned with. So he does pull the Slayers through the battle line. You can see they're coming up to deal with the Dragon Lord, but what's really nice about this particular build is, as soon as I see Slayers, I simply just turn around and run. And then he's going to have Slayers kind of trapped and mingled in here against my Marauders and Aspiring Champions, which is a really, really bad matchup for him. And even against the Giant, you can see the Slayers, they do have like a few models here fighting, but for the most part, they can't get a good surround, and that Giant is just getting a much more cost-effective trade. I think he has taken about 5 or 10% HP damage, maybe. He does have the Slayer King in here. You can see some Marauders coming in to support, and it's definitely very hard because Kolek is extremely quick. So if you don't have like missile pressure on him or things like that, it's very, very hard to deal with for the dwarves, because as soon as the Slayers come over here, and you see now they're trying to come around and catch him, but they can't. They're getting like caught up among their own troops. And as soon as he gets here, I'm just going to run right back through my troops just like that, and just run up and back and around. And, you know, he was able to get a little bit of a surround on that Chaos Giant, so I simply withdraw it, and then I'm going to re-engage it through my Marauders to make sure that, you know, I have that saturation and that support there for them. So it's a pretty good situation. So right now, very, very bad for my opponent. Here's another Lord of the Storm here. Just look at the damage it does across his back line. It does pretty good damage to this Grumbling Guard, and also was able to punish those Dwarf Warriors. But right now, I have a Giant and Kolek just laying the smackdown on the Slayer King. Now, this is what he was born to do, you know, fight these monsters, but, you know, still, this is, you know, 1,000+ weapon strength, just stomping on him and hitting him, and sometimes Kolek gets a little ADD there, and he's a good ball scheme with some of the dwarves back there. But the Giant is hitting Ungrim really hard, and thankfully for my opponent, he is unbreakable. You can see the Shaggoth here as well is kind of plugging up these troops, but he does have some Slayers here, which is not a good situation for me. I definitely wanted to be a little bit more careful there. And you can see the Slayer King gets in there and hits the Shaggoth pretty hard, actually, for a good 10% of his HP. So right now I do pull Kolek out because, you know, I don't mind these guys taking a little bit of damage. You can see both my Giants are in very, very good health, continuing to just stomp the yard and just honestly just punishing Ungrim. Not having missile units and these weird, you know, off-meta builds like this can really give you a massive advantage, because if I had brought a regular Chaos army with all these miners and, you know, the Peak Gate Guard and units like that, and, you know, I'd brought a traditional Chaos Lord without Lord of the Storm, I might not have been able to really do the same kind of work I was able to do. And the Shaggoth and Kolek against the Dwarfs are just so scary. I mean, they're both so sturdy. They have heavy-duty armor piercing. They can just ride around and do as they please, really. You can see it's honestly just walking through his troops, and he can't really get a good surround on Kolek here. So Ungrim, unfortunately, for my opponent, is pretty low. It looks like he gets knocked over, but when I see the Slayers and other troops coming, I kind of, you know, get a little bit back, because I figured I could just run up and around and catch him again once he ran back. You can see the Giants continuing to stomp the yard here. Literally, they actually do stomp and are doing pretty well. A lot of my Marauders have been routed off, though. I don't have a whole lot left. You can see they're running down the hills, but essentially they've done their job. The Aspiring Champions here, they're still in pretty good shape, if I'm not mistaken. They're actually confident. So they're not going to hit hard, but as long as they can absorb a little bit of this punishment and allow these two Giants to just do their thing, it's going to be very tough for my opponent. So you can see, I believe Ungrim is around here somewhere. Did he actually get killed yet? No, he's still here holding on, doing his thing, but let's see how much HP. So he has 238 HP, and it looks like Kolek, you know, has his sights on him, which is going to be tough. And another Lord of the Storm. So it looks like I've gotten about 4 or 5 of them off in the battle, and it does some pretty serious damage. So Ungrim's probably not long for this world, so we'll go ahead and give him a farewell send-off here. Looks like he's getting the hammer, and that is probably all she wrote for our Slayer King. So he tried his best. He did pretty well laying the smackdown on the Shaggoth. But the problem with those type of Dwarf Lords is they can get knocked around quite a bit. With Grombrindle, I feel like you have a little bit more utility, because you can use a flash bomb to lock down these big units. So for example, if Kolek engaged on Grombrindle, you could use a flash bomb, which would slow him by 76%. Your Slayers and other units could get in and do some substantial damage, but, you know, in this particular matchup, it was very tough. But just having those 2 giants there just beating on these guys the whole time, that was so much damage output. And the Marauders did a really good job. I mean, there's not much left in terms of Marauder count. You can see here, there's some left here. They're all shaken and pretty beat up, but that means they did their job. If your Marauders are really low by the end of the battle, my Giants are in relatively good health, the Shaggoth is in good health, and so is Kolek. So I really like that build, guys. I'd be interested if you guys get a chance to try it. Let me know your thoughts. But, I know you guys requested some Marauder builds and some off-meta builds, so hopefully this meets that criteria. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But you can see Kolek in there, went pretty balls deep. He definitely got the tip in there and did a good job. The Dragon Ogre, Shaggoth did pretty good. The 2 Giants obviously laid a pretty serious smackdown. You don't expect much in terms of aspiring champions in terms of kills, but they did a very good job encouraging the Marauders. And as you guys saw, I mean, 43 kills, 35, 54 on these guys is not bad at all. They definitely outclassed a lot of the Dwarf Warriors, which was nice. The Miners with blasting charges, 57 kills on there isn't bad, but again, Marauders are pretty low tier infantry, so. This was a traditional Dwarf Death Star build. Not traditional, I guess it was a little different than what I would do, but, it seemed a little more intended towards, a more well-rounded, typical Chaos army, but against the Shaggoth hunting squad, it was definitely a little bit tricky, but very well played to my opponent, who's your Dovahkiin. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Have an excellent night, and take care.